And now, the Bellhop's Tabletop, where we look back and summarize what's happened since we were last here. What games hit our tables?
Every week, we like to take a look back at the games we played, any events we attended, and other cool gaming stuff that's been going on.
You can catch the blog version of This Week in Review at tabletopbellhop.com under On Our Table. On Our Tabletop.
All right. Monday night, had a group of 3 people for game night. It was my friend Mike and Tom and myself. Deanna took the night off to get some work done, and we played a couple games of Eminent Domain again. I've been playing a ton of that, trying to get through the expansions I brought home from Origins. Now, this was Mike's first time playing, so we stuck to the base rules for the first game, but then quickly broke out escalation for the second game. Now, we did leave the scenarios in the box for that second game.
Yeah, no, again, we've talked before about the great ability to build up this game for the newer players by adding in bits and pieces as you go,
Mhm.
so that they're not knocked on their back when they get the full complexity.
Yes, throw everything at once. Although I wonder if just starting with escalation, there's so many tech cards both ways. I don't know if it'd be more overwhelming. Now I don't have a lot to say about these gameplays. Both games went rather well. I am convinced now that this is definitely best at 3 players. It lasts just long enough for you to build an engine and run it for a while, which is nice. With once you get up to 4 players, it's over too quickly. Um, with just the base game, at least with 3 players, I'm starting to wonder if research and technology seems to be a bit overpowered, which is starting to make more sense why they've completely rewritten warfare for escalation to make it more valuable. But now the more I play, it seems like the player who goes for the big research in the base game tends to win. Now, if multiple players go for it, I think there'd be a real competition there. But if one of 3 players focuses on research, it's seeming like they may win the game. Like that might be a guaranteed strategy.
And I think that was definitely what I found in the two-player game that you and I had the first time I got it down. I got it at the table down there. I wasn't leaning completely on warfare, but I went a little bit towards warfare and
Yeah,
tried a balanced approach, whereas you went in on technology, and definitely took the win because of that technology
yeah.
thing. So
Like I
it's
said, that's the point of escalation, right? Like this is definitely one of those expansions that attempts to fix the base game or address issues with the base game.
right.
The other thing we talked about, I've been talking about Eminent Domain a lot. We keep talking about how much repeated plays improve the experience. That's definitely true. The more I play the game, this is definitely a game that rewards system mastery and knowing the cards. Mike, as he hadn't played before, was a good example of that because he went from feeling completely lost the first game to actually holding his own in the second game just after one play, getting that how the cards work, how you hold on to cards, why you might want to burn cards, and so on. I gotta say though, we've been playing a lot of Eminent Domain. At this point, I might actually take a break. I am going to do up a full review of Escalation at some point soon. I do have a whole other expansion to break out called Exotica, but I think I'm going to hold off on that for a little bit. I think I've been forcing Eminent Domain on too many people lately. Though again, we may play online, but that's a slightly different experience.
Yeah, as long as it's not too big of a break that you find a new favorite and move on before you get to your expansions.
Yeah. Yeah, I got to get to that expansion at some point. I owe them that. That's worth noting. Note the Escalation is a review copy. I was provided by Steam Minstrel Games. I should probably disclose that at this time, and as will be Exotica once I get to it. All right. The other big thing that happened this weekend was the local gamer and personal friend Jeff Seuss married his best friend Sheila. Deanna and I were honored to have been invited and attend the ceremony and reception, which were both held at Reno's Kitchen right here in Windsor.
Well, I think once again, congrats to Jeff and Sheila, and glad to hear the mini moon went well when you got back on Discord today.
Yeah, I didn't hear much about that. I'm gonna have to talk to Jeff. I didn't hear. I've never thought to ask what they were doing. This was a wonderful ceremony at a great venue. Food was amazing. Reno's is one of the best places to eat in the city, so that's not surprising. Drinks were great. It was awesome to see Craft Heads beer on draft. Like the only thing you can get was Craft Heads beer, which is a local brewery, so that was cool. They had a blueberry wheat and a honey brown. Even the music was good because I gotta say it's not often Deanna and I go to a wedding and actually like the music. So overall, it's just a great night. We had a great time. One of the things that stuck out about Sheila and Jeff's wedding that matters to the listeners here is that they had plenty of tabletop games for people to play. Now, I knew this was going to be a thing going in. I even brought some of my own games to supplement what Jeff provided his guests to play. There was a pretty decent selection of games, mostly light gateway party style games. Jeff had brought Deep Sea Adventures, Uno, Bananagrams, Love Letter, Anomia, Red Seven, Skip Bow, Timeline, Funky Chicken, Kerfuddle, and at least two or three others that I totally missed and didn't see. There was a table full. I personally brought Azul, Go Cuckoo, and The Climbers to add to that collection.
It's almost like someone, listened to our show and took our advice or something.
Yeah, it is that way. I think we did do a whole episode on having games at your wedding and why that would be cool.
Mm-hmm.
I do have to admit, I don't know how much we inspired Jeff. Maybe this was something he was thinking of ahead of time, but I know he did like the concept when we mentioned it. Now, early in the night, Deanna and I grabbed a copy of Azul, set it up on the patio. Now, this was that time period where we just had the ceremony and the newlyweds leave to go get pictures taken. Right, this happens at most weddings. The difference is that the reception was at the same venue, so everyone just kind of left standing around. So this seemed like a great chance because this was a spot for guests to mingle. And the one thing that was not perfect was Deanna and I didn't really know any of the guests. Like I know Jeff from running the local Hack Forge and running some game nights with him, but I haven't known Jeff like say for as long as I've known Sean or any of my other friends. And I definitely don't know Jeff's friends. Like there's not a lot of friends of friends there. So I thought this would be a good time to play some games. So we played 2 games of Azul. We did get a couple people over. We had some very curious, oh, what are you playing? Oh, that looks really cool. And every time someone came over, I'm like, hit me up later in the night. I'll teach you to play. Um, but it didn't really, no one did, right? At that point, no one else seemed really all that interested in playing games. Now, again, most of the people there were, of course, family who knew each other. So there was a lot of people just catching up with each other, whereas we were kind of left out of that. So most of the night, I got to say, at that point was people mingling and not a lot of game playing.
Now, so this is actually kind of ideal. So despite what might at the moment seem like a bit of a waste, it allows people to, the people who want to get that interaction early on
Mm.
out of the way, meet the friends you haven't seen in ages, meet the family you haven't seen in ages, and get that talking done right then and there. And the games don't need to get played. The games are there if
True.
they need them.
Yeah, which is a great way to do it. Now, later on, after some speeches and the dancing started, and while the alcohol had been flowing for a while, people started to play some new games. It started off with a couple kids playing Uno. Then a group went in and started playing Bananagrams, and it was the most intense game of Bananagrams I've ever seen. There was one of the people we had met at the wedding who went in, and his wife was playing and tried to interrupt her and got a very stern, get the heck out. I'm playing Bananagrams. Like this was the most serious game of Bananagrams I've ever seen. As the night went on, there were more and more people gaming, right? So this was an outdoor and indoor wedding. They had the entire venue. There was at least 3 tables going at once, which was pretty awesome. There was a table playing Kerfuddle, which is some kind of dice-based game. It looked kind of neat. There was another card game I didn't recognize, and Bananagrams seemed to be the hit of the night. Everyone seemed to be passing around Bananagrams. Now, interestingly, Deanna and I never actually returned to playing games, which is not what I would have predicted going into the night. Instead, we were actually socializing. Yeah, shocking, I know. But it ends up that many of the guests of the wedding were gamers, which kind of makes sense. And it was pretty much there were gamers or there were computer programmers, and there was, of course, the meshing of both. But most of the people there were role playing gamers. So they weren't actually all that interested in these silly party games. But at the party were Jeff's current RPG group, who are currently playing Delta Green, and his old group, and it was the group that like Sean and I split up over the years. So he had basically his old group when they used to play D&D and Shadowrun and stuff, and he had his new group that are more into story games. And that's actually who Deanna and I spent most of the night talking to instead of playing games. So we had conversations about our favorite systems, our least favorite systems, story games, Jeff's subsistent with hippie indie weirdo games, D&D, Call of Cthulhu horror stories. They couldn't believe I did not like Call of Cthulhu. I blame you, Al. Basically, we were having so much fun talking about games that we actually never sat down to play games.
Yeah. Now, the folks who had talked earlier and got that out of their system and didn't want to dance or drink, then had that different opportunity. Now, once the once the big thing was over and
Yep.
it all broke up, those games got played. And I think this is really kind of the ideal way to have, and the reason why we talked about having those games at the ceremonies and at the
Hmm.
events is not so that a whole bunch of gamers are sitting down focused on games, but so that there are those options for the people who aren't comfortable sitting and chatting with
Mm,
people, or have gotten that out of their system and don't want to have another chat with drunk Aunt Petunia or whatever. And it just sort of gives another opportunity. Or people, you don't want to get into that next political discussion because the elections are coming up. So you go and you
yeah.
like them, you like the people, so you go and have a game with them, and that way you can avoid those awkward conversations that you're trying to
Mhm.
have. It's so again, you shouldn't necessarily picture these as a key feature to the event, but they are a really handy
Mhm.
accessory to the event.
Yeah, and they were very clearly presented as an option,
Yep.
right? It wasn't, "Now we're all gonna play games." That wasn't part of it. It was, "Hey, if you guys are interested, head inside." It did help a bit that it was kinda chilly out and it was an outdoor wedding, so, like, head inside to warm up, and then once you were in there, everyone in there was gaming, so that seemed to push it. I'm still, like, in retrospect, kinda shocked we never sat down because we probably could have been playing Azul while having the D&D conversations. But it just there was, 2 or 3 of his friends, older friends, that we all just kinda congregated around, and
Right.
we just sat and we were talking so much role playing and characters and which D&D version of D&D was the best, and I don't know, it was a good thing.
Great.
So despite not playing nearly as many games as I thought we would, I thought I'd be talking for hours here about all the different stuff we played with strangers. We did have a fantastic night. So again, congratulations, Jeff and Sheila, on your wedding, and thank you very much for letting us be part of it.
All right. Now, how about a look ahead? What games do you have planned for the coming week?
Right now, it's the blitz, right? I got 50 games. I got to make sure all the components are in, all the instructions are there, the expansions are pulled out, and I'm going to try to add as many fan created player aids I can find. So that's a big one. There's certain games I want to get some practice on because I haven't played them in a long time. It's mostly the heavy games that are going to be in the final rounds, right? The ones that are worth the most points. I did get to play some practice games of Endeavor. I'm really hoping to get in plays of Anacrity and Brass before Saturday. Like I'm pretty sure I can teach them, but like touching the bits, getting in there and doing it is really going to help my ability to communicate how to play the games better. So that's a big one. Then after that's the week after October 19th. This is the one you guys are going to care about if you're local and listening to the podcast. Is we're going to be hosting a spooky Halloween themed game night at Easy Mode. Easy Mode has asked if we were interested in helping promote this one. They're going to spend some money on it. They're going to try to make it a bigger event. They're talking about picking up a copy of Ticket to Ride to raffle away. So we're going to have a game giveaway. That's something new for an Easy Mode event. And what's cool is I have some Halloween themed trains. So I'm going to add to that pot to make it a little more interesting for people. So that's supposed to be our big game night. We're going to see if Easy Mode can get a few more people in. It's not that we've had bad turnout, but it could be bigger. They have more tables. We could get more people out. So we're going to try to push this one and see if we can get a bigger crowd out. So that's October 19th on Easy Mode, basically at Parent and Ottawa Street, where the old Tecumseh Tavern used to be, next to the 7-Eleven. For anyone who's local, we'll be there at 5 o'clock till at least 10 o'clock. The place does stay open till 2 if you want to stay late night. They do serve Walkerville beer, though I don't know what they'll have for food. They've been having issues with their food supplier.
Well, that's a shame. And I've actually gonna have some games to talk about next week. I've getting
Nice.
some Duke back on the table, so we'll see how that goes.